right. Stan, why don't you introduce yourself and kind of what you do, and we'll kind of start from there.
Yeah, so I'm Stan Capleta, and I've had a history of working for a number of different companies: Microsoft, Mobile Chemical, making hefty bags, Coca-Cola, doing the freestyle machine.
Yeah.
And you take all that together, and it gave me a skill set that gave me the opportunity to get into indoor farming. And so at this point, we've got a farm over in Paso, and we're growing mainly herbs, but some leafy greens.
Yeah.
I brought some samples here in the back here that you'll be able to try a little bit later. And basil's our big product, and we get a lot of sales with cilantro, and then we do the variety with certain restaurants in the area.
So you supply restaurants too?
Yeah.
Whenever they ask for their greens?
Yeah.
So why don't we get into how you grow them? So you have, it's hydroponic, right?
Correct.
And so why don't you describe hydroponic and what that entails first, so we can kind of start at like just a baseline understanding for everybody that's listening.
Okay. Basically hydroponics is getting the plant down to being able to grow without soil and getting it to its basic needs of nutrition that's delivered with the irrigation water, light, and the right temperature zone with CO2. You want CO2 because the plants will actually use that to grow.
Gotcha.
And so hydroponics is just a way to get those roots just in the water and get the nutrition that they need.
So and let me know if we can't talk about it, but do you pump CO2 in there as to help the plants to grow?
CO2 is in the environment, so you're basically, you can create CO2 with tanks, just exposing it through the ventilation system, or you can have a burner for natural gas, and that'll create some CO2. Or if you're lucky enough, you can actually team up with like a brewery that creates a lot of its own CO2 and then have the CO2. So there's all these thoughts about how, the whole concept here is, how do you make a sustainable food supply?
Yeah, totally.
And, if you're given a magic wand, what you want to do is you want to be near a source that creates CO2 so you can use that. It just doesn't go into the atmosphere. And then also you'd like to be close to a heat source. So there's certain farms, around the world that use geothermal energy. Yeah. So they're able to pump heat into it and get these heat zones that are necessary for year-round planting and growing.
Yeah, because definitely in Paso, it definitely has huge, temperature fluctuations, right?
Yes.
So
yes,
let's get into that. How does that work as far as, there's plenty of breweries for sure where you're at.
Right.
So, but definitely the hots in the cold in the winter, definitely, how do you guys kind of navigate that?
Well, it's a real challenge. The building we're in does not have sufficient insulation. And we always set it up where we would try to kind of blend in with Mother Nature. So when we think about a controlled environment, it's not, our design is not completely controlled. We'll leverage outdoor air. We're bringing in outdoor air and indoor, and just working it so the plants have the right amount of, fresh air that's coming through the system. And then, when you get this extreme heat, we've got a heat pump. We're trying to keep it as cool as possible.
Yeah.
And then when you get the extreme colds, obviously the heat pump is working the opposite way. So it uses energy. And when you think about indoor farming and going down this path of a sustainable food supply, there's still a lot of learning and a lot of evolution that has to happen. And one of these areas is energy. And for our farm, it's a prototype. It still produces enough for 150 stores. Okay, 150 to 200 stores.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy. It's small.
That's
it's
so much.
It's like in 5,000 square feet.
Yeah, that's not that big.
No, not at all. And so we just have a technique, a process that enables this very, very high efficiency.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other aspects about the design that allow this to be placed in a lot of metropolitan areas, or even not necessarily large metropolitan areas, but smaller areas to feed the local population.
Yeah, right. Because some areas probably can't grow what we can grow here on the Central Coast, right?
That's exactly. And this is probably one of the most competitive areas for us to start a new farm that you can imagine. So it's like, okay, if we can do it here, let's export the growing philosophy of California to other areas of the country and potentially other areas of the world. But there's other areas of the world too that have this, capability and, allows us to, share what we can from here. But
yeah, right. So I think on your website you kind of combined a few different farming / irrigation techniques. What was kind of the genesis of that? Like it said something like you got something from Japan. What was it? The Danish and
yes.
also like the U.S. water, environment controls. So how did you guys come up with, kind of? Are you just taking inspiration from everybody and you're like taking the best aspects from each of those and be like, okay, we're gonna put it together and hopefully this will work?
Yeah, well, it wasn't like a hopefully.
Yeah, right. I'm sure there's a bunch of R&D going on.
So my background was like a lot of operations, engineering, manufacturing, and you learn as you go through that there's these generational talents that happen in operations. People always think about it as sports, but in the world of business, there's these generational talents that come through, and you can take what they brought to their company and leverage that. What Toyota did. Okay, that's a generational talent of what they did to introduce the whole idea of conveyance and just upended the entire world of auto manufacturing.
Right, because it's more of like an Eastern mindset to do something and refine it, to the best that it can be. Right.
Yes.
Versus, over here, we don't really have at least as much that kind of mindset. You're like, let's just something fast, quick, and the most profits, and we're going to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on,
yeah.
But there's also some this idea of understanding what's the best out there and not being, of the mind of, if it's not invented here, I don't care about it or it's not as good. Taking the best of these different areas and then bringing it together to create something even better and then extending it. So my time with Microsoft, this was Bill Gates's motto almost. It was like embrace and extend. So embrace what's out there, what's the best out there, and extend it. And so that's what this farm is all about. So embrace the Toyota way and the way you're able to set up cycle times. You're able to convey the plants to the person. Don't put in automation until you really understand the process. Okay? And then if you go over to Europe, Northern Europe especially, where they've had to basically struggle to figure out how to do controlled environment ag, they are so far ahead. And if you look at some of the best greenhouse operations here in the U.S., well, where do they come from? They came from the Netherlands. They came from, the Dutch, whatever.
Right.
And so understanding that and going and realizing, the guys in Denmark, they kind of have a chip on their shoulder because the Dutch have gotten all the kudos around the world. Right. So their engineering and their capability is actually just as good, if not better.
Interesting.
So I was able to go over there and visit these greenhouses and,
cool.
and see the equipment, learn, make a lot of relationships.
Yeah.
Like to this day, I meet weekly with people over in Europe over the phone.
Yeah, right.
But I'm always learning because agriculture, I've been in agriculture for maybe 6 years now. And it's unbelievable how humbling it is. There's so much respect I have for farmers.
Oh yeah.
Especially like here in California, every chance I get to meet somebody that's just been through it and their family's gone through it, there's just a different respect. There's so many challenges that happen. And,
absolutely.
And it's not like, I've been in the job for 2 or 3 years. It's like, okay, well, when you get about 20 years, then we can talk because there's so much learning you go through every year. But anyway, I'm kind of digressing a little bit. But okay, so you get the best of greenhouse and how that is operating. And we're just missing a couple things in terms of the Toyota way. And then in the U.S., I was able to team up with a company that does water control for major municipal projects like wastewater, drinking water for cities, major cities like the city of Portland.
Yeah.
Okay. And work together with them to do the design for all of our irrigation system. And that automation allows me to do high precision nutrition balance for the plants. The other thing we're able to do is the way we do filtration. there's no water that goes back into the system except let's say at the end of the month when we're cleaning our tanks.
Yeah.
Okay. And we don't do, so I've been in the greenhouse world, so I understand how that water management is managed. And, we do, like other indoor, it's like we use maybe 10% of the water that is used in field to grow the same amount.
Yeah, I did see that on your website. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ours is even better because we don't dump anything back into the sewer. We use city water.
Yeah.
Typically what happens is you get this, the water flows back from the plants, and you've got it in a storage tank, and that storage tank can get out of balance, so people dump it.
Right.
And we incorporated again some principles from Toyota Way, like just in time.
Okay.
We applied that to our irrigation system.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't go any further there because that gets into trade secret stuff. But,
yeah, fair enough.
But it's amazing how much it saves. And it's not really the water is one thing, which is great, but the added benefit that we get with our technology is the fertilizer. And the price of fertilizer skyrocketed after, the Ukraine war and all that, because there's so much fertilizer coming out.
Through there, yeah. Yep.
And so we use maybe, 75% less.
Less fertilizer?
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Our fertilizer cost is like very minimal. I mean, the plants are getting, it's like just in time. They're just getting exactly what they need when they need it.
Yeah.
So it works really well. And so, my background is a lot of product development, when I was at Microsoft and then also at Coke. And my feeling is that where we are with indoor, where we are with controlled ag, it's still in the, infant stages.
Yeah.
And if you think about how far other technologies like automobile or semiconductor chips have gone, because there's been so much energy that's been put toward that.
You're right.
When we think about sustainable food, we've just started. And I just think in the decades ahead, one of the reasons I'm doing this is just because I can because of my skill set, but it's really, what are we leaving behind for the next generation?
Right. Exactly.
And can we kind of move the ball down the field a little bit? Mm-hmm. Because we're not going to move it down all the way. There's so much more that has to be done and can be done. And can we advance the ball 5 yards? That's it.
Right.
So
yeah, that's really interesting. So you worked at Microsoft and Coke. What brought you to kind of what you're doing now? It seems like you had a bunch of different skill sets that now you're kind of combining all together in this like soup to like make, what you're doing now, which is kind of really interesting actually, because that's kind of like Microsoft and Coke is kind of the opposite, at least, what I think as far as like sustainably growing food, which is great. I mean, it's awesome, but like what made the shift?
Repenting for my sins.
No.
I was on the first Xbox team too.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I remember when that first came out. We were playing Halo all the time at my friend's house.
That was a great game. Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
We're like my mom's like, "Can you get off that, please?"
Yeah. Yeah. We started manufacturing in October. We started in September, and we had to get 3 million on the shelf by December 24th. And I was over operations. I had the worldwide operations group.
So how much were you sweating that?
I was sweating.
Yeah.
It was good. I was a lot younger then.
Yeah.
It's good. But it was something. But anyway, back to this. Yeah. I was able to, I do have a unique combination of skills. My wife got she got a lot of allergies when we were in Atlanta working for Coke.
Okay.
And so she needed to move back to Seattle, and I had a relationship with one of the founders of Plenty Unlimited, which is one of the early indoor farm companies, and I got picked up with them. Well, first they had said no, but then they were going to put an indoor farm up in Seattle. So they hired me to do that. I worked for them for about 18 months, got that farm up and running.
Yeah.
And the technology just wasn't right. They were kind of revamping the technology and how they're going to go about it. So decided to shut that down, and I decided not to go on with the company. I kind of felt like, it just wasn't the right time, right for me, because they wanted me to go to Los Angeles and kind of help put the farm up in Compton. And
okay.
And my wife, after the whole thing with Atlanta, I just kind of needed to stay there. But anyway, I worked there 18 months. I got my motivation to kind of continue on from the guys there. Matt Bernard, the CEO at that time, Nate Story, the chief science officer, and Nate Bazanson. This whole idea of what you could do in controlled ag, and how much conservation you could do, how sustainable it was. It was just like there was too many things that lined up directionally that this is where we need to take ag.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, hey, it's just lettuce and herbs that you can grow indoors. And to a large extent, that's where a lot of people have gone. But now you're starting to get strawberries. You're starting to get some of the other things like peppers that are people to do. And like I said, this thing is going to blow up. You know, I mean, it's going to go. What can be grown indoors will be, let's say, in the decades above. It's not in the years ahead. It's a long, slow process.
Right.
But think about all the arable soil that we're destroying. I mean, there was a stat that said, hey, you know, for every person that's born, we destroy 1 acre of arable soil.
Really?
And, you know, right now we're still fine because the guys that work in supply chain are just amazing. You know, they're getting stuff from Mexico. They're getting stuff from overseas.
Yeah.
They're putting it all together, so it's on that shelf.
Right.
But there's a point in time where the consumer is going to say, hey, if I got a choice and there's something local,
that's
and I don't
where
have
we're
that
at
supply
now.
chain. Yes.
And I'm like, I mean, that's kind of what this channel's about, man. Like, buy local here.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I got you ready to try when you're ready, man.
Yeah, for sure. So you saw their method in Seattle, and you're like, hey, this is kind of now the direction. There's so much more to be done, I guess, in that area. How much research and R&D and testing have you gone through over the years to get it to kind of where it's at now?
Well,
if you can even quantify that, I guess.
So Plenty's technology, I did something completely different because I didn't want to have any sort of competitive issue. And even the plants that we do are kind of a different subsegment of the market
than what you were doing before.
Yeah.
Okay.
And their technology was these vertical towers.
Oh, yes. I've seen those. Yeah.
And with that, the plants kind of grow out and up.
Yeah.
So it kind of restricts them to a cut salad product, which is in a bin and it's cut and you got the leaves in there and, you know, it's fresh, it's nice, and you kind of reclose it.
Yeah. Right.
And for my approach, for I should say because a lot of people went in to help, it's really to grow the plants just like you see them, just regular plants. I can cut them if I want to.
Yeah.
But it allows the plants to grow naturally straight up, and it gives me flexibility. I can go into cut salad. I can do living herbs. I can do cut herbs.
Yeah.
I can do strawberries. I can do this. The main principles of conveyance and the type of hydroponics that we use, which is called NFT, nutrient film technique. There's about 6 to 8 different types of hydroponics. There's aeroponics. There's aquaponics.
Yep.
There's ebb and flow. There's deep water culture. All of these are different ways. But when I first started this, you know, again, I pull a page out of the Toyota Way and the Keiretsu approach and how they understand in also that whole culture that Microsoft had about embrace and extend, and just trying to understand how what would be the best approach for hydroponics, because there's companies that are doing really well with other types, and I just went through and started reading patents.
Oh, okay.
And I came across a patent that GE did in the early 90s, and they were trying to figure out how they could leverage their LED lights.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because they have the market on LED lights for stoplights in the U.S. They have over 50% market share.
So they make all the stoplights that you see?
Yes, all the LED stoplights. Now, obviously, they've spun things off and things have changed, but they have huge R&D.
Yeah, of course.
And so they know the exact colors, the exact wavelengths to grow different products. And what they found when they did this, and this is in their patent, is they went through and they checked out all these hydroponic systems.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they gave all the data in that patent. They show all of their research.
Oh, my gosh.
And they say the best one for commercial and the best one for very, very high yield is NFT. So I'm going down the path of NFT.
Oh, my goodness.
So you can ask me, hey, all the R&D. Well, sometimes it's not R&D. Sometimes it's finding other people's.
You just got to read, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, too, is, you know, I just finished reading a book, you know, Einstein's biography, and he started off as a patent agent. He worked as a patent agent for 5 years. And he just pictured everything in his brain by reading this, because he didn't have a lab. And I think that was really fundamental to him becoming this great scientist.
Right.
But I won't go into that. But so you read those things,
Yeah.
you read these books, and you just say, oh, wow, there's a lot to be said for original R&D that has been done and documented.
Yeah.
If you just focus on, like if I were going to go into, another type of business that had some technology element, I'd want to read all the patents and make sure that I wasn't going to do something that was going to infringe on somebody else's.
True.
I mean, that's really where some of this stuff came from.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, so I don't know what to...
No, that totally answers the question. So yeah, you saw GE and all their testing that they've already done with all the lights that they've done, and you're like, hey, that's step number one. Like, this is my light source.
Yes,
now.
that's my light source. And yeah, you start knocking these things off, and then the other thing is understanding, okay, what are the best technologies for manufacturing if you're going to automate things?
Right.
What are the best programmable controllers?
Yeah.
And there's a lot that are out there on the market. I turned to one of my existing suppliers, so to speak, and this was the page. Yeah, this is what I missed with talking. The page out of the Toyota Way is the Keiretsu method, and that's where you work with suppliers. They become strategic suppliers. Mm-hmm. They do the engineering and R&D for you.
I see.
To take their product and modify it. So it's commercial off-the-shelf technology, but it's highly modified. So they'll call it MCOTS for short. Mm-hmm. And so everything I have is like MCOTS.
I see.
I got my lights. I have modifications there. I put the light manufacturer, studying their designs, and then studying the designs of the structure that I'm going to have. And I understood that to install a light in previous experiences might be $150 a light to do these industrial lights.
Right.
I got it down where I didn't need an electrician, and I could do it for $5.
Oh my gosh!
So it's like
the cost is so low. It's like, let's go.
Yeah, and that's another point that I haven't raised, is that it's no sense in doing this unless you can take out what's known as the green premium.
Right.
And it's like, oh, we're going to do this and do this, all this great stuff, but then it comes to the market and it's $2 more than what consumers can buy.
Out of the ground too, right?
They're not going to just buy it based on, oh yeah, it's sustainable, I'm going to pay an extra $2.
Right.
No. So you have to get the cost way down, and these farms were going up for $50 million.
Yeah. To
put up a farm, and to do the same farm, the farm that we have, the technology we have, we can do it right around 20 million. Mm-hmm. Now that's big time dollars, but it's not that big when you look in that industry and what's happened in that industry. And then again, all I've done right now is a prototype. So I don't want to come across like big talking. It's that other thing. But I do know it can scale because I've the type of equipment we've done, the work that we've done.
Right.
And so getting the technology pieces right, getting the lights right, getting the programmable controllers right, like everything we do is on Siemens. And Siemens has so much capability.
Yeah.
Like I can pull it up on my phone right now and I can manage the farm from my phone. And I have no engineers in the company. Okay.
Really?
We have 5 employees.
5 employees to run the whole place.
The whole place. Well, let's say there's myself and my Jeff, who you met.
Yeah.
We kind of oversee things, but we're kind of setting things up to be able to operate additional farms. Yeah. But at this point in time, we can be gone, and we've got the equivalent. Let's say the equivalent of 5. We're only at, let's say, 60% capacity. When we're 100% capacity, we'll probably be up to 8.
Which is...
Yeah, it's still small.
Yeah.
But you have to think and plan that way in order to eliminate the green premium.
Exactly, right.
Everything has to be thought through. And people say, cost reduction is just about buying stuff that's cheap. It's not. There's so much development that has to happen to get something in that's going to be lower cost. And that's what this whole farm represents. It's like it's all about reduced costs, not having a big engineering staff, going and talking with suppliers, maybe giving them some equity in the company, and getting them to understand the big picture, making sure you're communicating, and then let them run.
Right.
And the solutions that we've got are, absolutely amazing. We've learned so much on this farm. I would never do a farm like this again because we learned so much. So this is where the development happens.
Yeah.
It's the next one that will have
just way
10 huge improvements.
Yeah.
That'll just make life a lot better.
Yeah.
And, I've got the food safety background, so you're always thinking about designing for food safety as
right.
well.
Exactly.
So there's things that we're going to be able to do there too.
Man, you got all the pieces together to do this, man. Yeah. There's not that many people that know all this stuff that can combine it to make what you're doing now. Like, that's pretty incredible. I mean, really. And it's all done on the Central Coast.
Yeah, it's all done here.
I mean, it's not in Silicon Valley. I mean, it's here.
Yeah, that's
right. You
know
what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah. Because I would expect it to be in Silicon Valley or a big tech hub too, because they're always doing these startups. Like, I talked to this lady, Jennifer, who she sells vegan cheese, but she's like, I can't produce as much as these people in Silicon Valley can, so I'm just a real reseller now, because they have so much more money that they can bury into this stuff to make it allergen free, dairy free, grain free, whatever it is. So it's kind of incredible that it started here, at least what you're doing, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. So kind of what are the challenges as far as kind of what you're doing, as far as, I think I looked up like root rot or like diseases or, stuff like that. Like if something gets in there, is it much quicker to spread because it's all the plants are closer together,
right?
Versus like being outside or anything like that.
It is. So you have to be really careful. And, for us, we pride ourselves on no pesticides. So we have a really close relationship with a company that makes predator bugs. And, everybody's heard that, ladybugs will go and eat aphids. And you kind of put those out. But it's a lot more advanced than that. So there's, tens of bugs that you can put in to take care of pests that might come up. And as long as you're in place early, they won't get started. Now, once in a while, you do get pests coming in.
Yeah.
And it is a concern because the plants are so close together, and it's a huge food source for them. So we've kind of gone through the learning where we've had problems. We had an aphid infestation 2 years ago, and you learn from it.
Yeah.
All these things you just learn from it. And that's why I have so much respect for farmers, because they've had to go through all this learning.
Yeah.
Now, we don't get root rot. Again, the NFT approach gives the roots an opportunity to dry out and get a lot of oxygen.
Okay.
So it's just trickles the water down at the bottom. Like if I show you.
Yeah, show me.
Let's see. Okay, so this is arugula. Go ahead and try one of these too while I'm doing it, and I'll show you how this whole thing works. It's going to be. So you'll look at the bottom here, and you'll see these roots that are coming on. And so this sits in a carrier.
Yeah.
And just sits like that, and then the water just kind of runs right along the bottom. And those roots just kind of pick it up. Now this is a sterile peat, the media that's inside here, and that serves to kind of keep it moist.
Yeah.
Especially when it's going to go to market. So it kind of retains that. And then people, when they get home, they can just put this in a coffee cup in the sun, and it'll keep growing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's...
You just put water. We tell you on the back to put a couple of tablespoons of water. Otherwise, you can cut it, put it in a plastic bag, put it in your refrigerator.
Okay.
There's a lot to how to care for these.
So, but you would put it inside when you get it. If you wanted to plant it, put it inside in a coffee mug versus like if you wanted to do it outside or...
You can try to do things outside.
Yeah.
But typically, it'll attract pests, and you're going to have a problem.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great to know. Yeah, I mean it definitely is very peppery, which is like what you want. I mean, that's kind of.
Yeah, you won't get it fresher because you made the initial cut. Whenever you cut, the best thing to do is think about a plant almost like a human. Okay, it's a living organism.
Yeah. Right.
And once you cut it, it starts defensive mechanisms.
Oh yeah.
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 And so it can make the stem or whatever taste bitter. But as you cut it, you're the original cutter here. It's not going to be bitter. It'll taste just as good as the leaf, and you'll get an incredible amount of flavor.
Yeah.
Plus, you get all the nutrition. Now, these think of a high performing athlete.
Okay.
When we grow these, we treat them like high performing athletes.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, they get all the nutrition they need. They get all the sleep they need. They get all the lights they need.
Yeah.
And for the most part, we need to create artificial stress on these because they've got things so comfortable, but they're growing really fast. So we want to, either blow some air or we want to do something to kind of give them some stress. How we do the irrigation. There's all these tricks that like a grower would know for the different plants to be able to get them so they're nice and robust. But the flavor that we get with this environment is incredible.
Yeah, definitely.
The nutrition. Now we haven't done a nutrition study, but other companies that grow similarly to us with indoor have done nutrition studies where you send the leaves away and they do the full nutrition analysis. But they're seeing 2 to 10 times more nutrition per 100 grams, that's our measure, than you'd get from field.
Really?
And that's because they're getting everything they need with that irrigation every day. Like we grow, when they're really small, we water them like twice a day. Mm-hmm. And then when they're really big, we're watering them maybe 5-6 times a day. Because they're running really fast because they've got the light, they've got all the CO2 that they need. They're just moving. So we'll grow at least 12 to 20 cycles per year. So versus a field which may be max 3.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Well, that's where that's the area where you can actually compete and be equal to field. Is because you're able to just turn so much more.
Right.
And then, there a lot of these indoor farms, and I can't, because the way we grow, I can't do necessarily apples to apples, but I can give you a couple of factoids that, some people say that they can grow, 30 to 80 times more than the field with the same square footage.
And with,
acre for acre.
From what you're saying, and more nutrient dense.
Yes.
On top of all of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And more nutrient dense.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, I'm not saying that this is a panacea for field.
Right.
Because I think the early guys that came out on indoor were just saying, we're going to take over the world with indoor farming. And that's just a bunch of bull.
Yeah.
This is just a tool that farmers, these big-time farmers, can use in addition to greenhouse, in addition to a hoop house, in addition to fields, to bring about their whole portfolio of products to the market. It's just a tool. It's not going to take over anything.
Yeah, right.
But the idea is, hey, I can put these farms next to processing centers. I can put these farms next to distribution centers so they have complete control, and I take out that transportation leg.
Which is a huge cost.
Yes. So now, because I can move this around and I don't need soil, it allows me to kind of take a step up in the strategic position to look at, okay, where are the people? Where am I going to get the energy from? Mm-hmm. Where can I get geothermal from? Where's my transportation? And start to think about where I can position the farm to optimize for food, for local, fresh food that's organic. We're not organic yet. There's challenges, but other people have done it. We know we can do it. We've talked to people. We got a path. My situation is I'm a startup company, and it's just all these things take money.
Yeah, of course.
So,
of course.
Yeah. So, but getting back to your question about some of the big challenges with pests, with root rot, with other things, we have figured out how to manage the plants so they're very healthy, and our biggest risk is pests.
Yeah. I would think so.
We get somebody coming in, we have air showers, we have all this stuff, but it's real easy for a pest to be on your shoe or whatever and just get in, and then they love it. They don't have any natural predators, so we have to bring predators in to kind of wipe them out.
So do you preemptively do that, or you're like, hey, it's aphid season, like maybe we should preemptively kind of have predator bugs or whatever?
Yeah, we're preemptive
just before it happens.
Yeah. We when we put these pots in the system, we sprinkle on the soil little bugs that will love to eat the pests. So
I want to go back to, you said you have to kind of artificially stress the plant.
Yes.
What can you explain that a little bit more? Like, why would you want to do that?
Well, you want it to be tough.
Okay.
And if you don't stress the plant, that stem can be a little bit weak. You want strong stems. Mm-hmm. The leaves are fantastic, regardless with or without stress.
Yeah, right.
But when they're in the store, you think about the supply chain. You're trying to do something natural that helps it through the supply chain without going to everything we have is non-GMO.
Yeah.
without going to something that's genetically modified.
Right.
That's the whole reason you want to go local. Is
Exactly.
You want stuff that's going to be heirloom, non-genetically, you want it as pure as possible for the consumer.
Right.
And so that's kind of and so if I get natural wind, which I do outdoors, can I do natural wind without drying the plant out or whatever to get them to swing back and forth? It only takes a little bit, and it breaks down the cell structure, and then it builds back up right away.
Oh, crazy.
Like they're like us. If I challenge you, if I go and tell you, hey, we're going to go run a mile.
Yeah.
And we're going to go run a mile every day over the next week, you're going to be really good at running miles.
Yeah, but not that first day.
Not that first day. No.
Terrible.
And like I said, I mean, these plants, they respond. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And then I wanted to ask, like, so with the lighting and watering, since you can have it on all day, do you have it on all day? No, right? Because you want like the Earth cycle, right? Like the sun and the nighttime, right?
Yeah. You have to let that plant convert the irrigation and the nutrient into cell structure. They have to rest. They're like us.
Yeah, you can't.
They got to rest, man.
More and more, I realize it is.
Yeah. It's funny, and then people say, I'm going to do all this stuff at home, and set up, a little hydroponic system at home and stuff, and it's a great idea, but you have to think about that. It's like getting a dog. You got to take care. You're going to go
like
away.
A puppy.
You're going to go away for a week. Who's going to water it?
Yeah, that's what you said when we were coming in here.
Yeah, who's going to water those plants, and then who's going to take care of it if you get pests?
Yeah.
And I see these kits that you can buy off Amazon or whatever, these really nice kits that maybe you have like 20, 30 plants in that. And, this is for indoors, and it's a great, wall fixture or whatever. And I just think, that's really cool, but until you get your first aphid. And then you can't get it out of the house.
Yes.
So you just have to be, it's good, but you have to have the right mindset going in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those little ones that are like, yay high, and they're all like, they got the light and everything. I've seen a few people have that, but yeah, you get bugs in there, and it's kind of game over.
It is.
You can't get them out.
Yeah. Just make sure you can clean it well, and you're not going to invest too much.
Yeah.
And you're ready to replant.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you seen those like this is outside, but I think it was up in Silicon Valley. They had these like churners, and there was like this laser beam that like hit these weeds and stuff. I've seen
Have
you seen those? Those are so incredible. Do you have anything that, like, obviously not that, but is there anything like technology wise that it has really been like, oh, this is a game changer kind of thing with that, whether it's in automation or anything like that too?
Well, in our area, there is a lot of it's in environment control, but the field area, there's some amazing things that they can do with the laser and the image recognition that they've brought in.
Right.
In our space, we have like hundreds of ideas, but I'm a startup, and I'm like,
true.
So there's like 9 or 10, I counted them in 2 years, indoor farms that went out of business or bankrupt. And it was just at the time when I was trying to raise my second round.
Oh, man.
To grow the next farm. And nobody wants to talk to me. So that's been a challenge. So when you ask about these technologies, there's some really cool things that we can do. A lot of it ties to the environment. And when I talk about the environment, it's like, okay, I want to leverage to be sustainable and keep my costs down. It's all ties together. You have to think about 4 or 5 different attributes that you're trying to bring together. I want to be able to understand the outdoor weather, and I want to be able to leverage that for my indoor farm.
That would be incredible.
Yeah. So we tried this the first round with our environmental system. I got a little weather station on the top, and when it's cold out and I want it cold in, I pull air from the outdoors. Mm-hmm. So think about the HVAC system on your car and how you can get fresh air or recirc.
Yeah.
That's how the system is set up.
I see.
Okay. It can go a completely new level with machine learning or AI or whatnot, where you're understanding the weather reports, you're understanding the trends, because there's hysteresis. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
It's not like instant. People think, oh, just turn the temperature down to 60 and you're at 85 and it's going to happen in 2 minutes. It's not. It can take 5-6 hours.
Right.
But if you know that that's happening because you're reading the weather reports and it's all automated, okay, then your indoor farm is already positioned for it. And if I can take a combination of energy sources, so I'm not just pulling power off the cables,
right?
I'm getting geothermal, I'm getting some other source that I can play into this. There's a huge opportunity because that's, the lights is one thing in terms of the cost, but how you manage the environment is another. Because what people don't realize, they just think, oh, well, why isn't it just like my home? It's just hot and cold. The plants are transpiring, and there's so much humidity. You got to take care of the humidity, and that just changes the equation. That just says, I got to go commercial, industrial grade HVAC because I've got so much water coming off of the system.
I see.
Again, we got high performing athletes. They're sweating. They're sweating like no tomorrow, man.
So that's interesting that like even the stuff that you're doing, you're like, hey, just because of the history of people going out of business, they don't want to talk to you.
Right. Yeah. Well, they want to say, I want to see profit. I want to see you had $1 million. I want to see this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like a prototype man. I've done more than anybody else in indoor farming. I mean, like we just approached this month. We just got to positive gross margin. And I don't mean this isn't a finance talk or anything, but that's a really big deal for an indoor farm like us to be able to accomplish that. And we've got 2 Fortune 500 customers. We're going into Albertsons, Pavilions, and we're going into Whole Foods down in LA.
Nice.
We're just fighting to make it work.
So they want you to hit certain kind of milestones or marks to be like, okay, now we're in.
Yes.
And you've already kind of done that though.
I haven't hit the ones that the bar's changed.
They keep moving the goalposts.
The goalposts have moved. Yes. Yeah. The goalposts have moved, and so I got a little bit more money from my existing friends and family that have kind of got us to this point.
Yeah.
And we got a couple of months left here, and so we're working really hard to increase sales, but it's hard. There's a lot of competition.
I can imagine.
There's a huge amount of competition, and it's just it's it's relationships, it's longevity, there's a lot to it, and it just gives. It's not like, oh, I'm mad about it. There's no grievance here at all.
Right. Yeah.
It's really wake up and smell the coffee. You need your 10,000 hours, and I don't know if you're a believer in new capabilities. You got to have the hours to learn and understand things, and I'm kind of in that learning stage in terms of the market, the sales side of it, and really what it takes to get in the door and have quality product. This is really high quality product, but a lot of people say, hey, it's not big enough.
Yeah.
I'm going in at a lower price because we think it's just the right amount of basil for an Italian meal. If I buy the big basil, okay, well, that's good. That's going to take care of my meal, but then I'm going to have enough for 3 more meals. And by that time, it's going to go bad.
Yeah.
So we try to right size it with the right price. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of thinking, a lot of marketing, and again, my background is operations and engineering, and so this is kind of new for me. Mm-hmm. And I had a co-founder, and he, it just didn't work out. So, and he had brought that piece. So he's gone. So I'm trying.
You're kind of picking up the pieces from there, yeah.
Yeah, and I got to go through this learning curve, and it's not it. It's a challenge, but hey, that's life. You just make it happen.
Yeah. So as far as like you getting into all these stores and production, are you like, hey, I can fill all this consistently? Because that's always like when I talk to people like the mushroom guy, he's like, we fill it consistently every week. It's not obviously every week, but like whatever it is, like as far as production goes, you're like, oh, okay, like I can fill X amount, but any further, I'm going to kind of be pushing it with the facility I have, right?
Right. Yeah, we've been consistent for 1.5 years with Whole Foods. That's 100 and, I won't give the exact quantity, but they have 65 stores.
Is that across the United States?
No, it's just their South Pacific region.
Okay.
And we go into that every week, same quantity, gets out to stores. We never missed a shipment. And that's been over 1.5 years.
Nice.
And that's, and then we're talking pallets. We're not talking about
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, it's a lot of volume.
Well, that's what controlled environment ag does. It gives you, as long as you have the right sensors, controls, preventative maintenance, all those things in place, it gives you the ability to deliver year-round.
Yeah,
and consistently, and at a quality level, at an acceptable quality level. Now, I'll be honest with you, in the wintertime when it gets really cold, we have to extend our cycle. So instead of like,
cycle,
let's say the growth cycle in the summertime is like 18 to 20 days. And in the wintertime, it may go 24 or more.
Yeah.
24. And you have to be ahead of that. Otherwise, you're going to have a week where the plants are small, and you can't do that. So you're always anticipating. You're always thinking ahead. And that's, the whole controlled environment ag. A greenhouse operation will be different from indoor. And it's just like farmers who are doing a field. They have to anticipate. They have to know that. And these are just things that, indoor you got to anticipate.
So does Whole Foods like really love you because you can get this type of product year round versus like if they're sourcing from farms? Not that that's bad, but they can, you kind of feel the need year round, is that way better for you? Like as far as in the marketplace to fill that need, or you're like,
They're never going to tell me.
Sure, they're not going to tell you
that they love me. But if I get a purchase order, I'm happy. That's all there is to it.
Fair enough.
That's all there.
Yeah, they're not going to tell you. But
that means we're doing okay.
Yeah, but they're like, oh, like we can't get X during the winter, but you can provide that.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, exactly. And so, with our technology, this is the whole point with investors, and not necessarily investors, but it could be strategic, like a Walmart or a large farm operation like a Taylor or something. It's like, look, we can put this farm on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And not only can we grow the herbs that we're growing, but we can do certain head lettuce. We can do certain other products that resonate with the consumers in that area.
That probably can't grow that there anyways, right?
And that's because they can't grow it there. They would have a local. And we're, like I said, we know what to do for organic. But think about local organic and also, no pesticides, something super clean.
Yeah.
We spend the money on the nutrition, understanding nutrition. We get able to put a nutrition label on there and then make the claim that we're 2 to 10 times more or whatever. Yeah. Right. Whatever it happens to be. That's a winner. Well, that'll get us shelf space. So that's kind of that's the whole concept here. But again, it takes it takes money to do that. It takes somebody who has the wherewithal to partner with us to do that sort of thing.
Right.
That wants that.
Yeah, exactly.
That has the deep pockets to make it happen. So.
Yeah, but that's incredible that this is the beginning stages of something that could be implemented kind of anywhere.
Yes.
Especially places that can't grow stuff like this.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it is.
So what are your kind of plans going forward? Or do you have any, you're just like, I want to just scale a little bit more and have more proof of concept and hopefully, have people be able to implement this elsewhere? Is that kind of like what's in the future? Or you're like, hey, I'm still kind of dialing it in and still kind of figuring it out too?
We think we've got as much figured out as we need to have for this prototype.
Yeah.
And we also recognize how big the challenge is. And our position right now is to partner with a large ag company that has deep pockets and sees this as a strategic benefit for the future. We think that's going to help us in a number of ways to get a competitive advantage because, what we're doing right now, it's just challenging. Right. I got 2 pallets, 3 pallets going down to LA each day or whatever. We're less than truckload. You got to be full trucks. I mean, there's there's so much to ag in terms of the economies of scale that we don't enjoy with this. And I can go and raise money and put a farm up here or there, making sure I have the relationships. But I think it's much better that we look at partnerships now so we can leverage the shared resources and take care of that transportation leg. And I think it'll help advance the technology faster. And that's kind of what this whole thing is about is can we get something 5 yards down the road, 5 yards down the field? Yeah. And, it's taken too long, to be honest with you. I've been doing this now for five years, and we've had this up and running for 2, but it took a year to kind of get a lot of things ironed out, and I just got to move faster. And I think having that partnership allowed to move faster. I see. I'm not foreign to the corporate world, the other jobs that I've had, and it's just about It's about teamwork. And for me in this role, it's, I have to worry about the money as well as all the other things.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Because we're so small.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And I think breaking some of those strategic pieces up at this point is going to enable us to go a lot faster.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do this.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. So what are your opinions on, kind of that green powder stuff that's kind of been going around? If you have any, I guess, that seems to be pretty prevalent now as far as like, and a lot of it is like the stuff that you're growing. It's grown into a powder, and then you put it in a drink or a smoothie, and then you got your daily greens for the day.
Yeah. I know there's companies that are doing that sort of thing, and they're mixing a lot of these exotic plants in to get the different nutrients that they want. We're not going into that area at this point. There just hasn't been viable opportunity for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you don't have any like thoughts on it as far as like, because I know I asked a few different people about different stuff. Like, the mushroom guy I had on here, he's like, yeah, you're getting like a powder, but like how they're grinding up the whole thing. So it's not just the fruiting body; it's all the mycelium and all the nasty stuff that's in the soil. They ground that all up, and it's like a percentage of what you should be seeing. People think that they're getting, we're just getting the fruiting body of the mushroom, which is what you want,
right?
But they're getting the soil and the mycelium, and like all this stuff, and you're like, that's probably not good for me to take all that in.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's something like that similar. As far as that green powder stuff too,
Yeah.
I can only assume.
Yeah, I haven't gone into that, so I don't really have a strong opinion other than just some conversations we had with companies who specialize in that. There's a dehydration process. There's a lot of process steps that they have to go through on that. So
right, yeah, and to keep it all, all what it's supposed to be. I know with all the weather in Paso. And just California in general, do you have to worry about like all the rolling blackouts? Like my father-in-law always has like power outages where he's at, like up on the hill up in Tascadero. And do you have any issues with that, or you have backup generators, or anything you got to contend with, or pulling too much from the grid, or anything like that?
Well, first off, I'll tell you that we get to the design where it's really conservation minded, so we don't use as much power as, let's say, some other indoor farms.
Yeah.
And we did anticipate outages. So we do have a generator, and we do have it kind of planned in terms of what we absolutely need to keep the plants going. Because when you're doing hydroponics, they can dry out really quickly. Mm-hmm. Now, we've got that media in there, that small peat that helps. But, you've got to be up and running. So we've got everything set where it's pretty basic, where almost anybody can kind of flip the power over and we can get a generator going.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's talk about, so say someone, buys one of these things. What is the best way for someone to take care of it to kind of maximize the shelf life? I mean, in their fridge, I guess.
Okay. All right. Well, our big seller is the living basil. And we've got instructions on the back of the sleeve.
Oh, okay.
But the best thing to do is, to take it home, cut the bottom of the sleeve off. You're taking the plant through shock. Again, you got to think of it as a human.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, definitely.
So don't take the sleeve off right away. Just cut the bottom off, put it in a cup, put it in the light, put 3 tablespoons of water on it. And again, I'm just repeating what's on the back of it.
I see. Okay.
And then after a day, you take the whole sleeve off. Mm-hmm. And then again, put 3 tablespoons every day. It will dry out by the end of the day. Mm-hmm. You want it to dry out because the roots want to be dry. Okay. And then a lot of times people just flood it. They just kill them. And they don't understand, what did I do? Yeah. Or they'll take basil and they'll put it in the refrigerator. Basil is a tropical plant. Anything below 50 degrees, it's going to turn black. Mm. Never put basil in the refrigerator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the plant that we sell, primarily, and you can get it at the Whole Foods Slow right down and Slow.
Off of Los Osos Valley.
Yeah. From Ranch Road.
Yeah.
So that's, and people have come back and say, I still got that basil plant. And, I planted some outdoors and, it's great. But that's really rare that people are that successful
Yeah.
Because people will want to give it too much water, or they'll give it water that's not filtered. It may have too much chlorine in it or whatever. And you really want to use the filtered water.
Okay.
And just use barely enough, no more than 3 tablespoons.
Oh, okay.
And then let it dry out, 3 tablespoons the next day. And then when you use it, you clip the leaves off the top and you go right to the node of the next leaf, and it will keep growing and bush out. So you'll have that thing for 3 weeks, easy.
Okay.
So.
And then any of the other, is the same process for all the rest of the greens there?
All the other ones are not tropical.
Okay.
So you can actually cut those, put them in a plastic bag, throw them in the fridge. We always say, hey, water it as soon as you get home, so it gets nice and full.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can do the same thing you did with basil, because it'll keep growing, or you can put it in the fridge.
Put in the fridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else is good for the fridge.
Yeah, there's always those memes out there, like the green staring at me at the back of the fridge as I take, it's like it's all mildew and.
Yeah, you want to keep it in a like a Ziploc bag, because it will dehydrate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you want it in the crisper drawer or whatever. So.
And is the paper towel good or
paper towel's good?
Is it wet or no wet?
Not wet.
Not wet.
Not
okay.
wet. You can wash the plant first and then dry it with the paper towel. Leave the paper towel around it, and it's good.
And then in Ziploc, and it goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right. What was I gonna say? Are you guys like trying to get to in any of the schools or anything? Like, are you partnered with? I just had Taryn on from Harvestly, and they're like getting all this like local food into all the schools, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the challenge is kids not eating enough fruits and vegetables, which is like kind of like you got leafy greens, which is good for kids,
right?
Do you have any plans for that, or are you guys already doing that, or how's that work?
For our particular lineup, it's not a product that would kind of go into schools.
Okay.
The herbs and stuff.
Yeah.
And they wanted it, but we do have contacts of people who are doing food programs.
Okay.
And they've contacted us a couple of times.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't worked out that, the way, again, it's a prototype, so it was kind of set up, and it grows herbs really well. And we have grown some lettuce, but the lettuce that we've had, that just, we don't get a lot of orders for that to kind of keep growing it.
I see.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
We've had a couple of tours through there. Some
local schools come through?
Local schools, yeah. Yeah.
Go check their shoes.
Yeah. And we're you're right.
Yeah.
We should you bring up Harvestly. You can buy our product on Harvestly too. And you get the variety. It's not just basil. Yeah.
Yeah, so you got a bunch of stuff on Harvestly, which her episode's coming out next week. So that'll be good. Actually, let me see. Like, where can they find your stuff that you are growing? Like you said, Whole Foods, but is there anywhere else in North County or?
Well, you can go to McPhee's restaurant,
which is delicious.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And they buy a lot of our product. I mean, they have almost kind of adopted their menu, so they always have some of our fresh greens or herbs on their plates.
Nice.
And I've gone in there, a couple of times, and it is amazing what they do.
It's so good.
Yeah, and the Avocado Shack, they're starting to buy from us
off of 41.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
yeah.
They're starting to buy from us, and then who else?
Are you in? Go ahead. Sorry.
A lot of our focus is on grocery, because we got to get the pallets sold.
Sure.
So that's kind of the.
So like grocery stores. So Whole Foods, you said in San Luis.
Yep.
Anywhere else on the Central Coast, like a Lawson's or Gather or any of that stuff?
No.
But so Whole Foods is like the place to go.
Whole Foods is the place to go, and then obviously we're shipping down into LA for pavilions. And the Whole Foods, down there.
Got it. Okay. Anything else you want to add, or anything before we kind of wrap this up? I'm gonna plug your website and all that good stuff that you guys are doing over there. So yeah, I guess also say like where people can find you, and anything else you want to add. I mean, this has been really interesting.
No, I mean, with the website and stuff, if people want to learn more, they can contact. I think my phone number is out there, or just contact the farm. And if folks are interested in trying our product, or even carrying the product locally, we're okay with case deliveries. Because it just kind of fits.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, we're trying to get pallets out the door.
Pallets out the door, for sure.
So again, we're just a small company, so we're just trying to survive.
Yeah,
so,
definitely. Well, anything we can do to help you guys and get you in there, like some more. I got some chefs coming on, get you into some chef restaurants. No, it's been great. Yeah. Sweet, man. All right, well, let's wrap this up.
All right.
Kill the